Boston 1951, a 4-year-old girl named Temple Grandin screamed and rolled on the floor. Temple was always pensive looking at certain objects. She can't talk yet and doesn't want to be touched. Her mother wondered why Temple was not like the other children, and was saddened when doctors diagnosed Temple with autism. The doctor said that Temple could not recover, and suggested that Temple attend therapy at an institution for autistic children. But her mother didn't want to. She chose to educate Temple in her own way, even though it wasn't easy. As an adult, her mother took Temple to a New Hampshire high school dormitory. There she met Dr. Carlock, a science teacher who had worked at NASA. Temple was passionate about science, so she was very happy. Temple's mother met the teachers there. She told that Temple liked to spin around to calm herself, spoke quickly, spoke repeatedly, was able to record memories of what she saw, easily panicked suddenly so her friends laughed at her. And if her friends provoked her, she would beat them. However, the teacher's response there was not as expected, so Temple's mother was disappointed and left. But Dr. Carlock dissuaded her by saying that Temple was a very extraordinary child. This school would be the right place for Temple as Temple's first step into the world, because her mother wouldn't be able to protect Temple all the time. Temple had to learn to face the harsh life. They agree that being different does not mean incapable. Temple likes horseback riding. Temple was first attracted to a horse named Chestnut. This horse was fierce, but Temple was able to calm him down. Although her friends think Temple is weird, Temple is happy there because she can ride horses and learn science. One day Temple made a wooden toy. Her friend came over and bothered her. Temple got angry and hit him. Temple was sentenced to no horseback riding for 2 weeks. Temple was angry. She went to the stables and saw the chestnut dead. Temple is confused and asks where did this horse go. Dr. Carlock comforted her and said that when animals or humans die, they are still with us, in our minds. Then Temple spoke the memory in her mind of Chestnut. This amazed Dr. Carlock because of Temple's ability to remember everything she saw visually. Dr. Carlock said to the other teachers while showing Temple notes. Temple had a strong memory and an extraordinary visual thinker. But other teachers couldn't understand it, so Dr. Carlock asked Temple to be his student. One day when Dr. Carlock was teaching, he showed an optical illusion video. Temple was excited to see the video. Then Dr. Carlock gave them the task to explain how it could happen like in the video, and write down how to do it on one page. Temple was curious, and got to work right away. This assignment proves that Temple was an active thinker because she thought the way, wrote, and created the object. Despite getting unpleasant treatment from her friends and failing repeatedly, she did not give up. When she hit a dead end, she turned to Dr. Carlock for directions. Then Dr. Carlock gave a hint, and Temple immediately understood. Temple managed to make optical illusion crafts like the one in the video. Finally she got appreciation from the teachers and also her friends. They celebrated by launching a mini NASA rocket. Dr. Carlock became an important figure for Temple. He realized Temple's strengths, and advised Temple to enter college. At first Temple refused, then Dr. Carlock told Temple to think like there was a door in front of the temple. If the door was opened, it would bring Temple to a new world. All Temple needed to do was decide to open that door and go through it. Summer 1966, Temple vacationed at Aunt On's ranch in Arizona. Arriving at the farm, Temple opened and closed the gate. Temple thought of something. She likes to see things with her own picture and then connect them into a thought. Anton showed Temple's room. But Temple felt strange there and asked how she knew this was her room. Anton wrote a sign on the paper and pasted it on the bedroom door. When her uncle asked about college, Temple didn't like it. Uncle and Anton tried to understand Temple. Temple's mother had told Anton what Temple's customs and what Temple didn't like. The next day Temple modified the gate. Anton calls Temple to help her feed the horses. Anton was amazed by Temple's intelligence when she explained about horse vision. Temple saw a nervous cow being put into a large device. Then the device squeezed the cow's body. It turned out that the cow liked it and made them calm. One morning, the maid accidentally dropped a paper stuck to Temple's door, so when Temple returned to her room, she saw the paper on the floor. She had a panic attack that she ran outside. Then Temple got into the large squeezing device and asked Anton to lower the lever so that the device squeezed her body. After that Temple calmed down. A few days later Temple's mother came, and opened the gate that had been modified by Temple. Temple's mother saw the cow's body squeezing device and became furious. But then she realized that Temple had found a way to calm her down. 1996, Temple's mother drove Temple to the Franklin Pierce College dormitory. On the way to the room, Temple panicked when she found out that everyone had a roommate. Temple wanted to go home but her mother stopped her. During French lessons, the lecturer asked Temple to read a book, but she refused. Because Temple was forced to do it, she finally read the book just by looking at the page of the book once, and the lecturer was dumbfounded. In the cafeteria, Temple panicked because it was crowded and heard the noise. She hastily grabbed jelly and yogurt and left immediately. When she was at the automatic door, she was terrified. She imagined the automatic door like a guillotine that could harm her. This made her friends laugh at her. Because of this incident, Temple made a body squeeze device in his room. When she panics and gets angry, she will use the device. This frightened her roommate, and reported Temple to the lecturer. Then Temple was called by the counseling department. There was a misunderstanding between the psychologist and Temple. Psychologists suspect Temple used the device for sexual gratification, so the device was discarded. Vacation time arrived. Temple vacationed at Aunt On's farm. Temple made a body squeeze machine and said she would not return to campus unless she was allowed to take the machine to the dormitory. Temple was helped by Aunt Ann to talk to the campus explaining about the machine made by Temple. Then Temple said she could do scientific research that this machine could be of use to other people. Temple did some research, and tested the machine on friends. One day Temple saw her grade F on the bulletin board. She panicked and called Dr. Carlock, and then she went to meet the lecturer. Temple submitted the results of her research and said that the majority of people who tried the machine became calmer. The lecturer was surprised to see the results of Temple's research and gave her good marks. Temple could keep the machine if his roommate allowed her. It turns out that Temple's roommate is a blind girl named Alice. She allowed Temple to keep the machine. Temple is happy and takes Alice to see a movie. Alice asks Temple to lead her, so that for the first time Temple wants to be touched by someone else. They became familiar. This was the first time Temple had found a friend who would understand and not judge her. Apparently Alice's presence brought a good change to Temple's mental health. 1970, Temple graduated and made a speech in front of the lecturers, graduates and parents of students. Temple recounts how she struggled to become an autistic person who from a young age couldn't speak, until she had to create her own machine to calm herself when she panicked. Temple's mother was touched because her daughter had become independent and could inspire her friends. 1970, Temple went on to study a master's program. She researched the behavior of cows on one of the largest farms in Arizona. When a man named Don Michael gave an explanation, he saw that Temple was not listening, so he rebuked Temple. Temple was surprised to hear the moans of the cows because she realized there was something different about the behavior of the cows on the farm. But because Temple was a woman, her words were always ignored and deemed inappropriate for her field. Don Michael explained the steps from removing pests from the cow's body to the slaughtering process. The process is very inhumane and rude to the cows. Then Temple noticed that the cow liked to walk in circles, trying to stay away from the guards, and that put the cows at ease. Temple did some research and told her supervisor. Initially rejected, but when she explained that what was good for the cows would be good for the business, finally her supervisor told Temple to ask Don Michael for approval. Don Michael refused her research application. Although it was rejected, Temple persisted in her research. She positioned herself as a cow. Many things became important notes and immediately recorded as evaluation material. Apparently what Temple did made one of the cowboys named Scott want to help Temple. He signed Temple's research application, and suggested her going to auctions and animal races if she wanted to observe cow behavior. At the auction, Temple saw the editor of a ranch magazine. She decided to pursue him and offered her thesis on cattle control systems for publication in a magazine. Temple was also asked to submit her writing. If it is interesting, it will be published in the magazine. Temple went to her supervisor and handed him a research application signed by Scott. Temple also told the supervisor to read the introduction to her thesis that had been published in the magazine. The supervisor was surprised. Finally, Temple earned her master's degree in 1975. New York, 1975, Temple's mother held a Christmas event. The guests there tried to make small talk with Temple, but since they didn't understand what Temple was saying about farm animals, they made a cold gesture, which saddened Temple. Temple's mother reassures Temple that she is proud that Temple has a master's degree in science, and that she loves and respects Temple. Temple wanted to research more. Temple returns to Don Michael's ranch, but is not allowed. Then Temple went to the magazine office, met the editor who had published his research and said that she would provide many more articles as long as the editor gave her a journalist ID. The editor granted her request. Temple could easily enter the farm without being intercepted again. Temple published her research on how to handle cattle in magazines, so her name became famous. Temple meets Ted Gilbert, owner of John Wayne's Red River Ranch. Ted offers Temple to make the designs on his farm. Temple had to draw the designs to show Ted. Temple asked the architect to describe it. But the architect was busy, so Temple observed how the architect drew, and with her cleverness Temple was able to draw her own design and show it to Ted. Ted was happy and started building the cow puddle pond. One day before the inauguration, Ted introduced the editor of the cattle magazine named Red Harris. Ted wanted Temple to try out the cow puddle pond today because Red Harris wouldn't be able to attend tomorrow. During the trial, Temple explained the mechanism of the device so that the cows walked on their own, entered the puddle pond, and swam without being stabbed by the cowboys. Cows are not stressed. The trial was successful, earning praise as a masterpiece from Red Harris and Ted. The next day, people at the farm dismantled the track because they thought it would take a long time to get the cows into the puddle pond. When Temple came, she was shocked by the actions of the cowboys. The cowboys blamed Temple for a cow that died, but it was their own doing that ruined Temple's design and didn't use it according to Temple's instructions. Temple was angry and left the farm. Temple went to see Dr. Carlock and vented all her frustrations. If the cattle is in pain and fear, the quality of the meat will also decrease. Then the Dr. Carlock advised Temple to design a good slaughtering place for cows. One day Temple came to Abbott, Arizona's largest cattle slaughterhouse, but she was not allowed in. When she got home, Temple got a phone message from her mother that Dr. Carlock had died, even though she had just seen him last night. Temple gave the cow brooch to Dr. Carlock. Losing Dr. Carlock didn't make Temple sad. Dr. Carlock will live on in her memory. Temple left before the funeral was over. Temple gave her body for her mother to hug. Her mother and aunt were immediately stunned and touched, because the hug was the first time. One afternoon, when she wanted to buy jelly at the shop, she managed to enter the shop at the same time as everyone else. But she was scared when she was about to leave the shop. Luckily there is a woman named Betty who understands Temple's condition as an autistic. She helped Temple to go through the automatic door. Unexpectedly, Betty's husband works at Abbott. Through Betty's husband, Temple was able to meet the top leader of the Abbott. Temple explained the design to Abbott officials, but Abbott officials said that realizing that Temple's design was expensive and Temple was considered inexperienced. Temple explained that the purpose of the design was to save on the salary costs of the guards who took care of running and rampaging cows, reduced cost caused by operation stopped because cows' legs were broken, or because had to remove dead cows drown in puddle pond. Temple guarantees that with her system, none of that will happen. Temple's slogan is "Nature is cruel, but we don't have to be cruel. We owe them respect." Using the system, just before slaughter, the cow's heartbeat was so calm, then the cow died. 1981, Temple and her mother attended the National Autism Conference. There are many parents and children with autism present to hear the opinion of experts. At that time there was a debate between the speaker and the parents. That made Temple speak. She said autistic children who twirl or roll around are self-stimulation that can give a sensation of calm like normal people who receive a hug. It's better than being restrained. When in the bridle will make it even more restless. Then Temple told in full how she became autistic. Don't be sad if parents realize that their child is autistic. Children with autism can see details that normal children cannot. Temple recounts how when she became antisocial to the point of blending in with society, became independent, and got a master's degree and is currently pursuing a doctoral program. Temple also feels lucky that her mother loves and supports her. Her mother taught Temple to speak and sent her to school. At school and at home applying the rules and etiquette is important. Temple family knew that she was different but that wasn't a handicap. Then a mother asked Temple to speak on stage. They wanted to hear Temple's story. Temple stepped forward and she imagined it was the door to something new and Temple was going through it. Temple Grandin is currently a professor at Colorado State University, lectures worldwide on autism and animal handling. In North America, over half the cattle are handled in humane systems she has designed.